My gardening experience all started whenever I was a little kid. I learned how to garden from my parents, my parents' garden at my house. It was more of a chore back then than it was fun like it is today. I learned a little bit from my mom and dad and a little bit from my grandpa as I went through my gardening career. So, a couple things that I've noticed my garden that's different from way back when. There are several traditional methods that I've abandoned. So, have you guys ever abandoned anything that traditional method in your garden? Kind of like how Kid Croc's been abandoning me on my videos. Hey everybody, I'm Doug the Croc Gardener here. Today I'm going to discuss 5 different things that I have abandoned that are not that are traditional gardening tactics. Things that you will not see in my garden. Let's get to it real quick. The first thing that I do that my parents and my grandparents always did and that I never do is I do a no-till garden. Basically, my grandparents, my parents, they would always get out there, and that was the first thing they had to do in the spring was till up that garden so they could get their soil nice and fluffy and plant their plants. They would plant everything nice neat rows so they could bring a tiller through it during the middle of summer to do any type of weeding and different things like that. Now I'm a little different. I have raised beds here. I don't do the tilling in my garden. As you can see, still have nice fluffy soil. There are several reasons why I do this. One, I am lazy. I don't know if you saw that last video that came out, but I am a lazy gardener. So I try to go by a lazy approach, not so much as lazy as something that's just purely simplified for me, something that makes life easier on me. Instead of doing the tilling, I think I'd rather be harvesting or pruning plants, different things like that. So that's just kind of my mantra there. Also, the no-till about this is also not about me just being lazy, as it is me just trying to preserve my soil structure in my soil. I believe I'm a big believer in building your soil, and when you run that tiller through there, it really hurts the structure of your soil. It kills all the living organisms that's in it, kills any worms that are in there. And basically it compacts your soil over time because everything gets all nice and fluffy, and all those worm crevices and the creepy crawlies that are around there, they don't get to make all their little holes, and the roots don't get to make their holes and allow water through and make a nice fluffy soil. So by tilling, that's one thing I do eliminate, and that's why I can get away without tilling, is because I just am better off because I have a good soil structure. I have good soil. I also found that I have a lot fewer weeds without tilling. You know, when you till, you pull up weed seeds from like the ancient times, like the Roman times, maybe the Greek times, I don't know, or even my parents, my grandparents' times. So that's another reason why you don't want to till your garden, or that's another reason why I don't want to till my garden. You guys can till your garden all you want. That's fine with me. I just prefer not to. Another thing I also do is I don't leave my soil bare for very long. If you notice, I do have little bits of debris all over my soil. I have debris, I have mulch. That mulch is now just breaking down, but that mulch is going to be replaced by new mulch in the soil. And then slowly that new mulch, slowly the plants will cover that soil, so we won't have any bare soil in the garden. By keeping that heat of the sun off the garden, it also preserves my soil, helps those living organisms, helps things stay nice and moist in the garden, just the way I need it. Yet another thing I'm not doing in my garden that I've abandoned is I am not a hot composter. I know that's not a real long tradition. My parents never really composted, but it's been a pretty good tradition with some people. People like to compost a lot of what they do, and they like to do it hot compost. Me, I'm so cool. I never turn my piles. I just toss things on there, let them sit, wait until they age enough and they break down. I got all these turnips from my winter gardening that went to seed and flower. But yeah, I'm not a hot composter. I keep it cool. Again, this is part of my lazy and simplified approach. I like to keep things simple, and I like to keep them as easy as possible. It gives me so much more time. That really does look like a mess, doesn't it? Another thing I like to do with my compost, instead of just throwing it on that pile back there, I will take the compost and I will take it and put it into my worm composting bins. Look down in there, I got an eggshell, I got some broccoli, got some bugs in there, all kinds of stuff in there. So yeah, that's where all my kitchen scraps typically go. I like to keep them in those worm composters. I feel like that vermiculture feeds the beds. I think it does me some real good for my soil to attract all the worms in the beds, gives them plenty of food for them to eat. I am gonna be looking pretty good this year, I think, with everything. And also, as I explained earlier too, a lot of times at the end of the year, I will chop and drop. All this debris that I showed you earlier in the video is stuff that I just chopped and I dropped. I have bean stalks, I have tomato stalks, different things like that I chopped and dropped. Just simply trying to get rid of waste in an easy manner, and yet doing a double duty there to where I'm getting rid of the waste, but yet I am still making use of all that waste. Tip number 3 is I grow up instead of out whenever I can. That's one thing my parents never did, is they never grew vertical. The only thing that they grew vertical in was tomatoes, and they put them in cages, and they put them about 3 feet apart from each other. Here, I am growing a lot of things vertical. I do this, one, to save space. Why I could have twice the amount of beds out here. I do have a lot of space out here. I don't know if you can see my yard. I do have a lot of space. I could put twice the amount of space out here, but why have twice the amount of beds? Why do that whenever I could have a simple amount of beds? Again, I'm lazy. I could have a simple amount of beds and then be able to grow things up in vertical and be able to get more in that smaller space. I think that's been working out really well for me. Another lazy reason. You guys starting to see a trend here? I think I should rename my channel to the Lazy Crock Gardener. But another reason here that I like to do this is it makes things so much easier to pick and harvest whenever you can just go right up to the trellis here and just pick off the trellis versus having to bend over. Nobody likes to bend over, especially when you're older, you're in your older ages. Not that I'm that old, but when you're in your older ages, nobody likes to bend over. It's just a pain in the butt. Actually, it's a pain in the back. I also feel like I'm saving money by doing these trellises. You know how many old tomato cages that I had bought that haven't worked out, that were all chintzy, and now I just line them up with these cattle panel fences that are gonna last me for years and years and years to come. How do I grow vertically? Well, first off, you've seen the cattle panel trellises. I do my tomatoes on there. That's mostly my trellises there. I do have some things for the hops that they grow that are just kind of, if the hops grow, they grow. They're always gonna grow anyways. The other things I do grow vertically is I got 2 cattle panel trellis archways. Here's my grapevines. This one houses 4 grapevines. And then I got 4 hardy kiwis, cold hardy kiwis on this one. And these things are gonna be doing me some real good here in a few years once they fill out. They're gonna look real nice too. What plants do I grow vertically? As you can see, I said grapes and my cold hardy kiwis. I got hops as well. I got tomatoes, I do squash, I do zucchini, I do, let's see here, cucumbers, sugar snap peas. This year I'm gonna try to do some melons. I also do a fair amount of pole beans. Number 4 of the things that I no longer do in the garden, that are traditional things that I no longer do in the garden. I've been using fewer chemicals. By chemicals, I mean pesticides and, chemical fertilizers. Chemical pesticides, chemical fertilizers. I've been doing several things to avoid those things. The main reason why I'm doing that is because I like to know what's in my food. I like to know that I have a good, healthy crop of food. Something that's gonna keep me and my family healthy for years to come and not cause problems down the road. I specifically know what's in my food. You ever read one of those backs of some of those chemical pesticides or fertilizer bags? I don't know. I can't pronounce some of the stuff that's in there, so some of that stuff is probably not going to be too good for you. How do I do this? Well, one, I try to eliminate some of the pesticides mainly by planting some flowers. A lot of the flowers will bring in beneficial insects. I know I preach this over and over again, but those beneficial insects do kill off some of the bad insects that are in my garden. I got like a little ecosystem going on here. Speaking of ecosystems, I make little hiding spots for little toads to hide out. I have little coffee cans all over the place. A toad may not want to hide in there, but maybe he will. You never know. I have little canopies of areas for them to hide. The toads will definitely eat those insects. I also put plants in certain places to eliminate pests. A good example of this would be a marigold. A marigold can eliminate a lot of pests. Another good example is I have onions here, and these onions are planted right next to my tomatoes. And those onions will deter, the smell of the onions should help deter tomato hornworm. So using different plants to do that companion planting will definitely help out things quite a bit in terms of deterring pests. If the pests aren't on your plants, you don't have to spray them. And if I do have to spray them, I'm using something a little bit natural like neem oil or maybe some cinnamon or cayenne pepper or something like that to keep the pests away. Try to keep everything all nice and natural here. I also try to reduce my fertilizer intakes. You've seen I do my in-bed vermicomposting. I can spread that compost out over the soil. I also showed you how I chop and drop my plants. I do have these comfrey plants. Look how big these comfrey plants are getting right now, actually. They are pretty good size. I can do a chop and drop, a mulch over the soil, and that mulch breaks down and does provide beneficial nutrients to the soil. So it's another thing that really helps me out. I also make comfrey tea out of this comfrey, and that comfrey tea does provide a lot of nutrients. I could just put in my watering can and water my plants just as you would normally with any other type of fertilizer or anything like that. I also have my rabbit crap man. Hey Matt, he brings me some of his rabbit manure from his pet rabbits, and I do sprinkle that all over the garden. That has really blossomed into many good things for my garden. Another thing I do to help with the nutrients in my soil is I do crop rotation. By not planting the tomatoes in the same spot every year, I'm not depleting that soil of the stuff that tomatoes need. If I rotate the tomatoes, they'll take up in another area, and then maybe I'll replenish over the year. That's good idea to do establish some type of crop rotation if you're not doing a whole lot of amending for your soil. If I do add any fertilizers to the soil, a lot of times I will add in my fish emulsion fertilizer or the chicken poo. You guys see me litter my lawn or my whole garden with chicken poo several times each year. It's a slow organic release fertilizer. Same with the fish emulsion fertilizer. It is slow release. It won't burn the plants, but yet it is still healthy for the soil, healthy for all those organisms in my living soil. Number 5, the fifth and final thing that I do that basically traditional gardenists don't do. When you think of a traditional garden, you think of rows upon rows upon rows of plants and plants and plants, and you have a row of potatoes, a row of tomatoes, a row of peppers, a row of carrots, a row of peas. If you do that, it's really easy for bugs to find what you want to do, and it's basically a buffet line for them. So what I tend to do is I may do, a group of tomatoes here, a group of tomatoes here, over there, maybe some peppers here, maybe some peppers over there, but I do like to mix my crops a little bit. What that does is, one, it protects my crops from various animals in terms of pests. It also protects my crops in terms of spacing. For example, tomatoes go in the center, onions are going out on the outside. In the middle, I have something about a medium height. The tomatoes are in the center because they're going to be the tallest. I'll put something in the middle about medium height, and that'll really boost the amount of food I get per square footage in my garden. It also provides a canopy for my garden. The thicker you grow your wanted vegetables and everything else, the more you'll have a canopy over your garden. Less sunlight reaches the soil, less seeds that can germinate. I also plant certain plants in my garden next to other plants for just solely pollination purposes. All those beneficial insects are coming into the garden because I got flowers planted in my garden. I'll plant some of those flowers next to some of those squash that need to be pollinated, those tomatoes, those peppers that need to be pollinated. They're going to jump from the flowers to the tomato flowers to the squash flowers and get all their pollen as much as they can be. They're not really too selective, so by putting those plants in there, I'm attracting those pollinators, and that really increases my yields. Tell me, what traditional garden methods have you really kind of gotten away from? I'm sure if you're watching my YouTube channel, you probably have gotten away from a few. All kinds of gardening shows on YouTube that I learn from. So I'm sure that's why you're here. You're learning from me, so I'm sure you've ditched some of those traditional methods. What are some of those methods? Let's leave a comment down below. What are some of the new methods you picked up, and why did you pick those up? Let's have a discussion. If you guys want to see any more material like this, please click that subscribe button. I will have plenty of material all summer long for you guys. Click that thumbs up if you like what I'm doing here. Cheers, everybody, and God bless.